Hello, fellow stalkers, and welcome to the Video Gamers Podcast. On today's episode, we're heading into the zone, dodging anomalies and searching for artifacts as we dive into the world of Stalker 2, a game that had us hyped for its release without really knowing what to expect. Will it be a hit or another disappointment? We're going to find out in this episode, but first, some introductions are in order. I am your host, Josh, and joining me, you can find him throwing bolts into a pool of acid and making fart sounds as it bubbles up over and over. It's Ryan.
The anomalies, that way. Throw bolts, it make good.
That's... All right, that's pretty good, man. I was impressed with the impression and then the farts.
Yes, not as good as Macho Man, but it's not bad.
Oh no, this is way better than your Macho Man.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh man, all right, well, that's quite the intro. Anyway, welcome to the show, everybody.
Just so everyone knows, Josh doesn't sleep anymore. And he just spent like 4 hours doing IKEA furniture. So now we're going to, I guess, record a podcast.
It might get a little crazy. I'm not going to lie. I got to work this morning and I was in that like delirious mode where I just didn't even care what I said anymore. And then I was just being stupid and silly. And people were like, dude, you're weird already, but like you're being really weird today. And I was like, I got a good excuse, man. I haven't slept in like 2 weeks. So hey, it doesn't matter. We are here for the people.
Yes.
Ryan, we have been very excited about Stalker 2. We were hyping this game up before it released. I know it was a game that we were really looking forward to, especially after the disappointment that we had with Dragon Age Veilguard.
Yep.
I don't want to bash that game, but it's like, I think we were hyped for that. That didn't pan out. Then we kind of moved our hype over to Stalker 2. We've been playing it. And we're going to break everything down. We're going to talk about the game, talk about our thoughts on it. We will touch on the performance issues that people were having, because I know that's a big question for a lot of people. So we're going to get into all of that here in just a minute. But Ryan, man, the reviews, they just keep coming in, man.
And just keep coming. Let's go.
Hey, we love it when people leave us reviews. Thank you to everybody that has taken the time to do that. Number one, it really helps the podcast, because anybody that's searching around for a gaming podcast, first thing they're going to do is read reviews. Number two, it helps the show. As people leave reviews, it kind of bumps us up in the rankings for podcasts and stuff like that as well. And as a way to say thank you and just maybe brag, just a touch.
Just a little bit.
We like to read them on the show, like this one that comes in from That Sick Boy. It's titled, "Wow, I'm stunned. This pod is so good." And it says, "I listened to this as I was sick. It made me laugh and puke my way through being sick. Don't worry, I still listen to you guys when I'm not sick. Anyways, I just wanted to say hi, and this is a great pod for gamers near and far. Ryan and Josh effortlessly intertwined their old school energy mixed with that gamer dad intensity while reviewing some absolutely great games. Whoever is not watching this, please find this and watch. It's a must. P.S. If this makes it on the pod, hi, future me. I'm so honored."
Nice. I love the future callback. Like, that's pretty good.
It did make it on the pod.
It did.
That's what you get for leaving us a good review.
That's what you get. And for the Gamer Dad energy, I've had some big Gamer Dad energy lately, because I'm trying to get the last couple bots on Astrobot. And it's dude, did you do that onion level or whatever? Real quick, not to sub. Go on.
I did the challenge levels. I will say there was apparently a challenge level where it was a combination of every challenge level, and that one I didn't do. But I did all the other, like the secret,
all
shape
the secret
levels
shape
stuff.
levels.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this one that's like the master onion level or something that me and my son did like 100 times. It was so obnoxious. And I finally beat it.
You
I
did?
beat that.
Oh, dude.
And then I beat the lava sparkling whatever today as well. And so we're chipping away. We only have like 3 more bots to get. But my problem is I always run everything as like a time trial, so like I don't need to on those levels, but I can't help it.
I'm kind of that way because I'm like, if I'm gonna mess up, I want to mess up as fast as possible so I can try it again.
That's why
instead of like the creeping through kind of strategy.
Yeah, I muted the music because I'm like, this is making me go too fast. I gotta slow it down a hair. But sorry, I got sidetracked.
Hey, there's no such thing as sidetracked when it comes to talking video games.
This
for
is
us,
true.
so.
This is true.
All right, listen, we're going to get into this. It's time, right? I kind of want to start off by just talking a little bit about, we have not played any of the Stalker games. This was our first foray into this series. I know you actually mentioned it before the show that there's 4 or 5 games
something
that
like
they've actually
yeah.
released, or like maybe 4 games plus a DLC, something like that.
Something along those lines.
Yeah. And we have zero experience with this series. We did not know what to expect. All we know is that we saw video, we kind of followed the development, the kind of release hype and stuff like that. And we were pretty excited for this game to come out. Like,
yep.
I jokingly told my wife, hey, I got a game coming out that I'm really excited for. And she said, yeah, you say that all the time. And then, lo and behold, it was out. We started playing it. So I guess my question is like, what was your expectation? Like what did you think that this game was gonna be? And then we'll talk a little bit about what it actually is.
It's hard. I'm not exactly sure how to describe what my expectation was because I had obviously, like we just said, there was no experience prior, and looking at the game, I wasn't sure what it looked like compared to any other game. Like it's a shooter, it has guns, it has kind of a semi-open world, you can explore, there's weird anomalies. So it was kind of a standalone, like, okay, this is going to be something different. And that's all I kind of went into it expecting, like, this is going to be something a little different than anything I've ever played. And we'll get into kind of if that delivered or not.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm kind of with you in the sense that we saw these trailers. I mean, we watched the guy throwing the rusty bolt into the anomalies, and we're like, well, that looks cool. And then there's this horde of mutant dogs that's chasing them, and we're like, ooh, that's kind of scary too. And I think my expectation was that this was like a creepy, dark, kind of first person shooter.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was like not in the sense of like Call of Duty or something like that. Like we knew it wasn't going to be super fast paced, but almost like I think in my brain, I kind of thought this is going to be a creepy, like Half-Life type experience, with like this big world, these characters, these stories. Yes, there's some gunplay, but it's not really like the main focus of the game, but it is like the mechanic, for how you'll interact with enemies and stuff like that. Is there, now that you have played it, not knowing what to expect, are there any games for somebody that has no idea and is like, dude, I've heard the name, but I haven't watched any video. Like, are there any comparables that you could make that this game is similar to?
I think you said it there. It definitely gave me those old school Half-Life feels. Like,
yeah,
it was just
I agree 100%.
Yeah, it was that old kind of gritty shooter that's kind of dark. You got to kind of some weird glitches and certain things here and there within the environment, but it was a little more open world than Half-Life ever was. You get to explore a little more, and not to take away from Stalker 2 itself, like the world itself is absolutely beautiful, and it's definitely updated from that, but the feel itself, it just gives you that old kind of gritty first person shooter from like the early 2000s is what it felt to me, and I felt at home, honestly. It's
so funny you say that, because when I started playing this, people were talking about performance issues and, oh man, the game's crashing and it's not running well. And that was legitimately the first day. It really did not come out to very positive reviews or response from gamers. I know myself, the very first day I sat down to play, I crashed 4 times.
Jeez.
And then just gave up. Like, legitimately, I went, oh man, don't tell me this is going to be one of those games where I can't even play it. I don't know what happened, like, overnight. I came back to it the next day, and then it didn't crash anymore. Well, it crashed again, but not like repeatedly. Like,
You were looking at the birds, dude. Like
I don't know what I was doing. I am with you when you mention Half-Life. I do think that there's definitely some old school like Fallout vibes to this game as well,
bit, yeah.
with like the characters and the kind of how they're always like talking to you and they want to send you on this mission, and it's like you go fetch something or do something, and then you come back and the guy's like, "Oh, you're back," and just there was some kind of like Fallout vibe to that.
Yeah.
But the best way to describe this is exactly what you said, is it gives me this old school feeling of a game that does not hold your hand, does not really explain very much to you. Half the time you die and you don't even know why the heck you died, man. I can't tell you how many times I was getting hit by something and I'm like, what is hurting me, man? You know, and I'll be honest, maybe it's because we're older gamers, but there was something so endearing about that to me that it just instantly kind of resonated. And I know there's like a lot of people out there that were like, dude, this game's broken. It doesn't, I'm dying. I don't know why. I don't know where to go. Am I supposed to explore all these places? Why is there not tutorials and all this stuff? And I'm just sitting here like, this is great.
Yeah. You mean I got to actually talk to the other characters? I got to
figure things out?
Yeah. There's not like a little dust guiding me like exactly where I need to go.
Yeah. Or no companion that is telling me the answer to a puzzle within 3 seconds of me getting to a location. Like that kind of stuff.
Hey, you should try jumping over there.
Yeah.
Hey,
what's that empty building over there? Maybe that leads to the secret bunker you're looking for. Yeah.
Dude, the feeling, that's what it was.
I agree 100% on that. And so if I had to say there's any kind of games, you know, and now there's going to be people that are like, dude, you're talking Fallout, you're talking Half-Life. This must be one of the best games of the last decade. You know, we'll get to that, but that is kind of the feeling. If I had to compare this game to something that most people have probably played or can say, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. I would say those are the two closest comparisons in my opinion.
I would agree for sure. Did you now, as far as like audio goes, did you get those where you would like run over characters and they do the where they like flop around?
Where it's like the physics. It's like the sound of it hitting things.
That's one of the biggest things. And I'm like, oh, I like the sound because it's just like, that's what it took me back to being like 16 years old or 15 years old. And I'm like,
some crate got stuck in the corner.
And it's like, or you weren't running past a guy and he flops around and he's like banging against like a trash can or something or a rail and it's making that crazy noise. But yeah, that was
It is funny how much nostalgia that this game brought back for me because they I don't know, maybe that's just the gamers that they were as they developed the game. I don't know, you know. And it's one of those things that we saw people talking about it even pre-release where they said, "Hey, it's Stalker. It's gonna have jank. Like that is guaranteed. If you're looking for some super polished game, you're looking in the wrong place because that's the Stalker feeling."
Yeah.
And I didn't quite understand it at the time. And now that we've played it and I do understand it, it's kind of like, that's just old school jank. Like every game ran that way.
Yeah.
You know, like they kind of just went, the game works, ship it. And we got used to that kind of stuff because and I'll be honest, man, like one of the things that I actually really enjoy was that there was zero hand holding.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm with you, man.
And not to just keep piling on Dragon Age Veilguard, but coming from that game, where it was so dumbed down, and everything was just straight told to you, versus jumping into Stalker 2, where nothing is told to you, was actually kind of refreshing for me.
Dude, I'd get on side quests, not even realize I was on a side quest. I'm thinking I'm on the main objective, and then I'm doing all these things, and then I'm like, oh wait. That's not even the main quest. And I had a blast. It was fun, but it wasn't even the main, thing. So you have to really pay attention to exactly what you're doing. Like you said, there's no hand holding. If you want to streamline the campaign, you got to pay attention and know what you're doing.
Yeah, we'll get into some specific examples of like some things that, maybe were frustrating for somebody at first until they kind of figured it out, to give a little bit better idea. But we'll get to that in a minute. But Ryan, we always start off our deep dives in a kind of our talking about a game by mentioning the standout. Like, what is the thing that stood out to you the most? And we've had this kind of cover so many different things lately. We've had audio, graphics, gameplay, atmosphere, scale, that kind of stuff. So a lot of times you and I will kind of talk about this first and kind of come up with a consensus.
Yeah.
But we did not do that this time because I'm actually really curious what the standout thing for you was. And so we intentionally did not talk about this. So I want to hear, like, for you, what is the premier thing? Like, what is the thing that stands out to you about this game?
So for me, I had two things that stood out above kind of the rest on the game that you experienced. One was the gameplay itself, the gunplay and the overall just movement through the world and how you experience the world. I thought was really neat. I thought it was done well. Albeit there was some performance issues, there were some crashes and other things like that, which, I think they're getting fixed with patches and let the modders, just run wild. They're gonna fix everything pretty quick. But other than that, the world was one of the funnest experiences I've had in a long time. I just had so much fun going through every cave, every nook, every cranny, every building. Sometimes you get rewarded. Is like we keep saying, and we're just kind of grouchy old men, but not every building's going to have some crazy loot cave. Like, you're going to go and you're going to maybe get some damage and everything get into this area, and there's going to be nothing there. And so that to me almost felt rewarding because it made those experiences when you did get something cool all that more rewarding. So the world to me, I think we keep talking about how much this game reminds us of the old school Half-Life and all these old games. The world is steps above. Like, this is a new age, well-developed environment that has damage and danger on every turn, every building, every kind of crevice. Like, it was overall just a rewarding experience just exploring.
It's funny you mention that because for me, the thing that stood out is absolutely the sense of exploration in this game. And it's weird because a lot of times we talk about exploration. I always talk about Outer Wilds as being like, oh man, that game, the exploration in that game is incredible because you're exploring all these planets and you're finding these ruins and all these things. And it's a different kind of exploration, but you hit the nail on the head. I'm doing a quest. There's a group of houses over there. Oh, let me go run into this obvious old neighborhood that's now, crumbled and abandoned and all that. I go into a house. I look into the 2 or 3 bedrooms and the kitchen and that kind of stuff. And then there's just nothing. It's empty. And I'm like, well, that was a waste of time. But then I go into the other house and it's like, oh, I found a can of meat. And it's like, okay. And then I leave because there was nothing there. And I go, well, that was pointless. And then I run down the road and there's like a little convenience store, a little rundown convenience store on the road. So I go in there and I'm looking around and then I find a backpack that's tucked away in the corner.
Yes.
And inside that backpack, maybe I find a pistol, or if you're really lucky, you find something really cool, like an attachment for a weapon or something, and you're like, whoa, I could have totally just run past this and had no idea. I love that, dude. Yeah. Not everything has to reward you, and a lot of times, because what happens is that creates the sense that this world has been picked over.
Exactly.
It wasn't laziness from the developers. This is world building. Yeah. If I go into a house, the table's tipped over, everything, it looked ransacked. And I'm like, well, somebody got here before me. But you do find things, and I will say they do a great job of tucking things away. So if you actually jump over that pile of crates and then crouch down and kind of wedge yourself through this other little pile of crates, maybe you find a treasure chest that's tucked away in the corner, and then you find something really good.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of exploration that I absolutely love, because you could play this game, never know that was there, and that's fine. Or if you took the time to actually explore and you found it, you're like, dude, this is great. So
you spot on, man. Yeah, spot on. There's a time I was trying to just run from guys because I'm like, oh God, I'm going to die. And I just ran up this chimney, and it was a huge chimney stack, like 3 stories high. And I get to the top, and then there's a backpack, and I'm like, oh, cool. And I'm able to get a bunch of loot out of it. It was pretty early on in the game, so I didn't have much. And then this is an even greater part of it, better part of it is as I'm up there, the dinguses down at the bottom are throwing grenades at me, trying to get me. And I told a couple guys in the Discord this when I was watching them play. They were streaming the game, and I popped in for a minute. But if I was to die and I was back in that area, I would do the same thing, because it was so funny, because they were trying to throw grenades up at me, and then they would fall back down and then kill themselves. And it's just like, there's just so many layers and details in the game, like you said, where you go into these back crannies and you find stuff, or you go into these other areas and it rewards you. So yeah, overall, it was the environment and the world was just really, really rewarding.
I haven't felt that sense of exploration, honestly, since like Skyrim. I did mention Fallout as well, because it's one of those things where just go look. If you see something over there and it looks like an abandoned factory, like, go check it out. At one point, I went to a giant factory. It wasn't like part of a mission. I'm wandering around. I'm like, there's got to be something here. I spent a solid 10 minutes poking my head in rooms and not finding anything. And I was like, well, this is kind of lame. You get a little like an artifact scanner that will beep if there's an artifact nearby. Artifacts are good things in the game that kind of give you abilities, but come with like consequences and stuff like that, or they're just worth a lot of money. So these are the kind of the things you're trying to find in this game as a stalker in the zone. But it beeped, and I was like, oh, there's something nearby. And then I figured out that it was on top of this giant like storage tower thing, like a grain silo almost. Oh, okay. And then I was like, because I was circling it, and I was like, well, it's obviously up there, but I can't get up there. There's like a ladder that didn't go all the way down to the ground. And I'm like, well, how do I get up there, man? I go and I just kind of back out of this factory a little bit, and I start following the pipes. And I'm like, dude, wait a minute. If I can get on that pipe, I can jump to this broken ladder at that point. So I followed that pipe all the way through this giant area. And sure enough, there was one area where I could jump on the pipe, and then I ran, and it was like a half a mile of running along these pipes to get to that spot. But sure enough, I managed to jump to the ladder, climb up, and I found an artifact. And I was like, this is how you do it, man.
People don't get, like, it's crazy that this stuff is what makes us geek out about it, but this is how games used to be, and that's why it's so cool to us.
Because it was rewarding from just playing the game.
Yeah.
And that's part of the issue that we have had with some games of late, is where you're not rewarding me for just playing. You are literally putting everything in front of me and then saying, hey, just pick. And then I'm like, but that's not fun, man. Like, that sense of discovery should matter. So, okay, well, exploration. So are we agreeing that that's kind of the standout thing, which is hilarious, because again, we did not talk about this at all. And if we both came to that same conclusion, then that tells me that they did something right in that regard.
For sure.
Yeah. So, all right, we're going to get into the performance, because this is one of the major complaints that people had with this game. I know there was a lot of concern over this. Even in our Discord server, people were saying, I want to play the game, but I heard it's terrible. So we're going to talk about performance as soon as we get back from this short break. Ryan, we're sorry, this game has crashed.
Rebooting.
Oh man. Okay. I mentioned it early. There were definitely some issues on release for this game. I crashed multiple times the first day. I was getting rather frustrated. When I could get the game to run the next day, the aiming, there was something just off, and I was not a happy camper, because I'm like, dude, this is a first person shooter, and combat's tough. This is no slouch of a game. I can't tell you how many times I died in this game, but the shooting felt so floaty to me. It was like, what is wrong with this game? Like, I can't aim properly. Is it lag? Is it something going on? Come to find out that there was mouse acceleration was turned on by default with a 0 option to turn it off. So I actually had to hack like the INI file to do that. You mentioned modders. Bless you, modders out there, because that INI hack absolutely saved the day. Yeah. Because then I was like, okay, this feels way better now. There were memory leaks where if I played for longer than like an hour, it would start to like stutter, and you could tell the whole game was just kind of starting to kind of grind to a halt. God forbid you try to window out of this game. I was playing and I tried to window out for something, and then it was just like, no, you
what are you
can't do that. Did you have performance issues?
So I did, but I did not have as many as you. So I had 2 crashes the entire playthrough session that I've played this game. One I sent you the video of because I had OBS running and I was recording it for some footage and stuff. The other one I didn't capture, but other than that, for the most part, it ran pretty good for me. So I understand, same as like a Star Wars for Paul, where just for whatever reason it runs really bad for certain people and good for others or whatever, or bad for most and good for some. Like I was one of the good ones. I was lucky. I didn't have really a lot of issues. It did lag up a little bit when I tried to tab out to go if I forgot to run OBS or I wanted to look at something or things like that. So other than that, overall, the performance really wasn't that bad for me. I know, like you were saying, because this game was developed for, Xbox. So PC kind of conversion, I don't think they may have put as much time into that as they probably should have. Because there was some issues. Modders had to adjust things. There was some stuff that needed to be fixed. But overall, I totally get what you're feeling with like the floaty controls and certain things on the performance. But overall, as far as like crashes and stuff, I only had the couple.
I will say I had the crashes on the first day and I just gave up. I went to bed. I tried it the next day. I wasn't crashing. While I did have some performance issues, for the most part, this game actually ran pretty well for me.
Yeah.
I expect when I go into a big town with 30 NPCs and a bunch of buildings that you can actually go into and stuff like that, the frame rates are probably going to drop.
Why am I not running 80 frames, bro?
I just don't, I get it. And you and I have very good PCs.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say almost top of the line PCs that we are running. And it's like the game, we just talked about it, man. It's that old school jank. If you're playing this game, you're not really caring about a drop in frame rates or the occasional crash. This game has quick save and quick load. I love that, dude. And I think the reason that we had quick save and quick load back in the day more often was because they knew that the game was janky and you just would quick save a lot of times, and if something bad happened or you crashed, you would just quick load it and you were right back to where you were. So while I did experience performance issues, and I can say, listen, mouse acceleration, dude, I don't know who out there actually even ever wants mouse acceleration on. That is the worst setting I have ever heard of in my life. It basically, for those that aren't aware, it's like a software acceleration of your mouse. And so it almost is like where you oversteer or over aim on everything. Like if you move your mouse and stop, you're used to the mouse cursor just snapping to a dead standstill. And with mouse acceleration, it kind of floats past that. It's the most annoying thing in the world. So I could care less about the crashes. I could care less about the memory leaks because I just restart the game and that would fix that. The mouse acceleration was the one thing that drove me bananas, but there was a fix for it. And then honestly, for probably the next 15 hours of gameplay, I had like 0 issues. Nice. So I don't know if the game just kind of had to load assets or get past a certain part or something. I will say there was one area later on in the game, and shout out to Jigglepuff on this one because he said, hey, I don't want to spoil anything, but if you guys are crashing in the sewers, just turn your graphics down to low.
Yeah.
And I remember I got to a spot where I kept crashing and then the light bulb went off and I was like, wait, I'm in some sewers. I wonder if this is what he was talking about. Turned my graphics settings to low, climbed out the ladder, and then just turned them right back up again, and it was fine. But I don't know, man.
Yeah. That's wild. Yeah.
I guess the whole point of all this is to say, yes, there are some performance issues, but it's not game breaking in my opinion.
No, I would agree. And then I think that they are going to be rapidly fixed, and modders are going to fix anything that aren't fixed. So I wouldn't let it deter you from getting the game for fear of it not
That's
performing.
The takeaway. That's the takeaway for me as well. The game has a natural amount of jank to it. The performance issues do not detract from the game. And they've already released 3 patches since the game came out to fix crashes and performance issues. That's like the main thing they're focusing on right now. So, all right, I did want to touch on that because, again, that was one of the major concerns that we could see from our community and online as well. And I think it's a little bit overblown. If you're the kind of person where frame rate drop bugs you, maybe this isn't the game for you at that point. So, all right, Ryan, let's get into the heart of any game. That is the gameplay. This is hard, man. Like, you and I were chatting before we started recording. It's very, like, we even said, like, this is a hard game to break down just by the nature of the game itself. It's a huge world. Like, the world, I don't know, there's like 8 different zones and they're massive, dude.
So big.
So, you know, you have this massive map to explore. You've got cities and factories and underground areas and little caves and stashes and sewers and all this stuff that you can find and explore and do. And so it's like, how do you break down a game whose premise is just go out into the world and experience this world?
Yeah.
You know,
go survive.
Like, yeah, go survive, right? Like, oh, you have quests, you know, and we'll talk about the characters and the story here in just a little bit. But it's like, I'm on a quest for somebody, but a lot of that quest is just go over here. But over here is like a 10-minute run, you know, and I'm going to stop at 30 places along the way.
450 meters away. I'm like, all right, well.
So it's kind of a challenge to say, hey, these are the different components of the gameplay, because it's a game that just lends itself to go into the world and explore. Maybe you have a general direction that you need to move in to go do this quest, but it's like the things along the way that happen that kind of make this game.
Yeah.
And so what do you do in this, Ryan? Like, how would you summarize the gameplay?
Oh, man. So I would say that basically this is almost like an exploration game to where you just journey through the world. And as you explore, that's going to lead you to the main campaign, to side missions, to kind of, and you mentioned it earlier, like Skyrim. And I wouldn't want to put this game on that level, but I would say that exploration is up there to where you want to search out these other things. You're like, oh, what is he saying? And you go and you go and check out that area that he wants you to go look at. Oh, this guy did what? Oh, no, he didn't. I'm going to go over there and give him the what for, you know? So it just lends itself to just plain kind of survival exploration is like almost the best way I would describe it to somebody who hasn't played this and wants to dive into this world like we did. You know, we're just kind of raw in this world. We don't know anything of the lore, and we're diving into the zone, baby. And this is what we're discovering, and it's been a good time.
Yeah, it's a challenge to describe that to somebody, because while there is the main quest line and there are side quests and people will point you in directions, and you know, you don't have to do any of the side quests if you don't want to.
No.
So-and-so's missing. Can you go find out what happened to him? Or, hey, my buddy got kidnapped by this gang of thugs and I'm hoping that you can help him out. You know, that kind of stuff. Or, you know, the classic, hey, this guy owes me money and I know where he's at. Can you go shake him down kind of thing?
Yeah.
But what's funny is when you go do that, number one, you find 15 things along the way to distract yourself with. And then when you get there, there's 3 thugs that are standing around and have this guy trapped in a house. And you do get the option of how you interact with these characters. You could just go say, you know what? I'm taking you guys out. And then a fight erupts. Or you could say, hey, let me go talk to the guy and see if I can work something out. Or you can maybe offer to just pay off the thugs, you know? So the game does give you choices like that as well. But I feel like your play time in the game was probably vastly different than my play time in the game, which is also going to be vastly different from somebody else, because it's that kind of game where the more you explore and the kind of more things that you find, those are going to influence like what your opinion of the game is, you know? And you know, for instance, I was exploring this one area. I found it looked like a little farm. It had like 4 or 5 different buildings on it and like a garden. And as I was running up to it, I heard this like horrible scream. And then like a couple mercenaries came running out and I thought they were attacking me, but they were actually running from something. And then there was one of those invisible mutants that you can see, the predator camouflage. And those things, I'd already known at this point, these things are insanely tough to kill. They're fast. You can't see them. It's going to take 5 magazines worth of ammo for me to kill this thing.
That's what I was going to say.
And most people would just turn and run. Not me, buddy.
Yeah.
It's the old school challenge, right?
Bring it on.
Let me chuck grenades. Let me go hide in this one tiny room, and he'll come in and he'll swipe at me, but I'm going to duck behind this table, which is going to break the AI pathing, and then he's going to run out. And it was like, that's fun. Like for me, that's the fun of like, how do I kill this guy? Come to find out there was 3 of those guys in this area. And I spent legitimately an hour and a half trying to just figure out how to kill these 3 creatures. And the second I would kill one, quick save. I got one down, baby. Like quick save, you know?
We got one.
But I did it. I wound up killing all 3 of them. I had no ammo, no grenades, no med kits, no nothing, but I freaking did it. There were no rewards whatsoever. I was like, oh, come on, man.
The reward is in your heart.
But it was. That's the point, right? It's like I didn't need treasure to make it worthwhile. It was the fact that I found this just random place where there was 3 of these freaking mutants. One was tough enough, but I figured out how to kill them all, you know, and that was the reward. It was like I had an hour and a half of just a really good time playing this game with nothing to show for it in the game itself. Actually, it cost me almost everything.
It cost you all of your stuff, but you're like, I did it. Yes. You know,
yes.
Nobody cares. Nobody knows about it until, you know, now when we talk about it on the podcast. But other than that, like that was purely for you. And that's what's awesome.
That's what this game is. Like, and that's why we say it's kind of tough to describe, but it's going to be how you play this game. If you beeline the main quest, that's fine. You can do that. And there is a story and a quest. We're actually about to talk about that in just a second. But you can absolutely lose yourself in this world by just playing this game kind of the way that you want to play. But there's no direction other than the quest. Like people just say, go that direction. And again, you might get sidetracked. But that's up to you. And I know like you and me, who were kind of ADD gamers, like we absolutely got sidetracked. Lot. So Ryan, did the story of this game make any sense to you?
There's a story. I just knew I had to run around and people kept yelling at me and things were blowing up and
let's set the table. You're a stalker who is somebody that is in the zone. You are hunting for these things called artifacts. The game starts out with some kind of like scripted event where you have this like big scanner thing that you have to plant. It's almost like a little mini tutorial. I'll be honest with you. I didn't follow this very well. Like you're betrayed or somebody that you're working for got betrayed and you happen to be there. And then you were with this group of guys that I can't tell if they're the ones that betrayed you or got betrayed. But it leads you to this town of other stalkers, and then people want to know what happened, and now you're mad at somebody. I like it's funny because legitimately I thought it was a misspelling because I thought they kept saying soldier. Like, hey, that's soldier, but the guy's name is Solder.
Yeah, Solder.
Which is one letter different, but there's no I.
Yeah.
and then I was so lost for a little while. I'm like, who's this soldier guy? And then I was like, oh, it's Solder. That's his name. So, there's different factions in this game. I don't know, man. This is why, again, it kind of reminds me of Fallout, right? Where it's like, do you want to work for this faction or do you want to work for that faction? They don't like each other. I'm not real sure why.
Yeah, no, it does. It definitely goes into kind of the whole faction thing where you can choose to align your, set your allegiance with one side or the other. That'll determine how they react within the mission. So a lot of times it leads to the same result, but it's just with a different crew as you play through the game. But there is the option to do that, which is cool. I like the ability to align myself with, all right, I feel like I'm vibing with these guys more than these guys, or these guys are kind of jerks. I want to go with these guys over here, So I did like the option. It was funny, though, you say that it was hard to follow, because at the beginning, I'm going into that first town, and I didn't realize I was going into the first town, so I'm sneaking. I got a silencer pistol and I'm trying to take out other stalkers, like, and they all like attacking me, and I'm like, why can't I beat all these guys? Why are there so many? Then I realized I just put my pistol away, and I'm like, oh, I'm in the town.
Yeah.
That's why they're all attacking me. So I'm like, why isn't this working? But yeah, so it's some of the stuff is a little tricky to follow in the beginning, like when you're figuring out where you're at and what you're supposed to do. And especially like us, we haven't been in this world. We don't know about the zone, you know. So yeah, it's a pretty wild story though. It's a little tough to track, but it is definitely into all kinds of craziness.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that stood out to me is you're betrayed, you're looking for somebody. By the time you find out what happened to him, that leads you to the guy that knew what happened to him. And by the time you find that guy wants you to go take out some kingpins to give you some information. And then you have to make that tough choice of like, do I take out Kingpin A? Do I take out Kingpin B? Or do I just shoot this guy on the face right here and now? Which is what I opted to do, you know, and that kind of stuff. So, you know, the story in this game is pretty massive. There is a very wide cast of characters. We were talking to Jigglepuff again because he's 40 plus hours into this game. And it was funny because the other day he mentioned, he was like, has anybody else made it this far? Because I just found out I'm only halfway.
Yeah.
And that's when my brain just kind of exploded because I was like, dude, the last time I put 80 hours into a game was, I think, The Witcher 3.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
like it's like that's a massive game, but that's honestly kind of what this game is just, it's huge. You can absolutely dump 80 hours into this and probably still be discovering things as well. So I'll in regards to the story, I will say there is one there. I'm not sure I really cared about it or followed it very much. It's just enough to kind of guide you through the world. So again, you can just experience this world that you're in and that they crafted for you, and let the game play just kind of tell the stories that you need to be told. So all right, we're gonna get into one more topic, and I just we'll touch on that a little bit. We've kind of hinted at it, but it's just the overall atmosphere and kind of what this game does right, and kind of the anomalies and that kind of creepiness. But we're gonna take one more quick break, and then we'll come right back. All right, Ryan, I'm just going to call it the atmosphere of this game because I loved it. Dude, I will say this absolutely resonated with me. It's a post-apocalyptic world. It's set in the Chornobyl area, you know, and so it's a wasteland. There's mutants. There's these weird like phenomenon called anomalies that are glowing, and maybe they're flame jets, or it's like a wind tornado thing. All I know is the anomalies will absolutely wreck you. You cannot run into one of these things. You do get a warning, like you have an anomaly meter or something that will start beeping like crazy if you're getting really close to one. Thank goodness, because I have run headlong into one of these many times, even with the thing beeping incessantly at me. They really just add a sense of danger to the world, of like just the world itself. That's not counting the fact that there are mutants, there's dogs, you know, there's rat swarms. That was crazy. I mean, literally like 100 rats came at me, and I didn't know how to fight these things. There's the stupid invisible mutant guys. And then there's just the roaming humans. You know, it like this game is one of those things where it's like, hey, in a post-apocalyptic world, you can't trust nobody. Yeah. And if you see people coming, you probably want to think about hiding until you figure out what's going on. So I absolutely loved just the setting, dude, the atmosphere of this game. Don't trust anybody. They're probably going to try to kill you. People are not trustworthy. At one point I was talking to a group of guys, and then they were like, you know what? We're just going to kill you, man. And then they all started attacking me for no reason. And I was just like, dang, man. It's like you have to worry about radiation all the time. You have a Geiger counter that'll start clicking, and that sound just, oh man, that'll really mess with your head too.
You're like, oh no.
Did you get to experience one of the emissions? Because the emissions happen where they're like, dude, the world just goes absolutely bonkers, and you better be inside when that happens, because if you are outside, you are absolutely guaranteed death at that point. And it's this like massive radiation storm that comes ripping through. That was really cool. Like What did you think about it? I mean, you love post-apocalyptic settings, so I got to imagine this is right up your alley.
This is, and that's why I loved so much the exploration, and where you can just look at a world that was kind of left in a standstill and abandoned, which just, I don't know, for whatever reason, that just resonates with me. I thoroughly enjoy it. Talk about, like, there's guys you walk up to, you talk about you can't trust anybody. They'd be like, hey, friendly here, and you can get a mission from him, which is cool. He's like, hey, man, I got this over here. Let's go do this. And you're like, all right, cool. Other guys, I'd walk up, no gun. I'd walk up to them, and then they just start shooting me. And then I'd die immediately. And I'd be like, oh, crap. Well, I know I can't go talk to them. And then I got to go fight them the next time. So you can't trust anyone. You can't trust anything. Every little shimmer, every little glimpse of something that doesn't look right could be an anomaly. You may just be walking and they have those an explosion anomalies that just blow up, and you got to be either quick or back off of them. So there's so many, not traps, but there's so much in the world, and in this atmosphere and the environment to see and to experience that. It's just, I haven't felt that way just going around and looking at things in a very long time. And so it was super, super cool to experience that. And it just helps so much with the immersion. Like, even like you were saying with those big waves that came through, like that's basically in the zone. It processes kind of all the energy and stuff. And when it can't do it, it kind of burps out. And that's what those big, was it
emissions?
The emissions, yeah, the emissions,
it's like a huge
So
storm.
It's basically just burping out the radiation in the zone, and you have to get cover, otherwise you will die within about a second and a half. It's just like your health goes boom to nothing. So you have to be within confines of somewhere, and the sky turns red. It just gets super windy and stormy and dark, and there's just not too many that have done this kind of setting recently, and it was really cool to experience.
It's very cohesive too. Like, none of it felt out of place or odd to me. Like, oh, we had to throw in this mechanic, so we just threw it in there because some CEO said that we needed this.
We need more storms. Like, it's like, no, they made sense. The lightning made sense. All of that stuff had a reason why it was doing it, and you felt that.
I'll even say this because I was getting frustrated, and we talked about how the game doesn't hold your hand. I was down in some, I don't want to call it sewers, maybe a dungeon is the best term for it, but it was this underground area, and I kept just getting hit by something. And it would take off a third of my health, and I died like 3 or 4 times. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, dude, and I was mad at the game. I was like, this game's stupid. It's so buggy. I don't even know what's killing me. And then I was like just randomly shooting, thinking maybe it's one of these invisible mutant guys. And it's like, no. And then I finally realized that there's like a poltergeist down in this area. And it was something was just, maybe it was an anomaly. Maybe it was something. But if I stopped to just look around and actually pay attention, I realized that something unseen was just chucking buckets and whatever was laying around at me. And by the time I'd get hit, I would turn around, but now the bucket's on the ground. And so I thought it was a bug in the game when actually this is just a super creepy place that has like an anomaly in it that I probably don't want to hang out in. And that's when I was like, this is really cool, man. Like, I was annoyed, don't get me wrong, because there's nothing I could do other than like run around a corner, but then it would kind of follow me and then it would chuck something in the room that I was in at me. But I was like, this is kind of neat because I discovered this thing that was creepy that's just part of the world, man. Like, you don't know everything that's out there. Yeah. And that's part of the game is the stalkers don't know everything that's out there. And the game throws things at you that you will not know what they are. And maybe they'll seem cheap and aggravating, but it's like, that's the feeling. That's the atmosphere of this game.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. It's been one of the best experiences as far as atmosphere goes and kind of environment that I've had in a while. They did a really good job.
They really did. So, all right, Ryan, we're kind of running long here. I always like to ask this because it's kind of a good way to summarize things. What's your favorite thing about Stalker 2, and what's your least favorite thing about it?
Man, I would say the like we just talked about and kind of glowingly talked about, I think just the exploration in the environment was something that just held me steady to booting up this game every time. I know us as fathers and full-time workers, and we got a lot of stuff going on in our lives. Hopping in and booting up a game sometimes is hard if you're not drawn to it. So I had a desire every time, like, to hop back in and see just what was going on in this world. So that was probably something pretty big that drew me to the game. Something that I didn't like was I just didn't feel sucked in overall to the story. I'm a big story guy, big cinematics guy. I don't want the cinematics to tell the whole story, but I also would like some of it to like something to kind of bring me in, give me that little kind of flair that makes me, you know, excited to see the next cutscene or the next crazy experience within the story part of the game. I just didn't feel that. Part of that maybe was just my love for the exploration within the game. So I'm not sure exactly how that would play out, but overall, I love the exploration. Story kind of could have used some work, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you. There were many times where I just kind of felt like I wasn't connected to what was going on. The exploration part was incredible, and I liked the little stories that got told through that. But like, why am I tracking this guy down now? He did something. He knew a guy. You know, I really didn't get sucked into the story very much. This is gonna sound weird, but I think my least favorite thing was just the scale of this game. Like, that's intimidating sometimes. Okay. You know, especially for us, right? Because it's like we churn through games so fast that there's always that like I need to try to experience this game. I need to try to do this. And it's like, this world is huge, dude. And it's like logging in, like there were times where it was like I had 20 minutes to play something before I had to go do something. And my wife was like, why don't you play Stalker? And I kind of went, that's a game I really need like 2 or 3 hours to kind of dedicate to. And she was like, you can't just hop in and play for 20 minutes. And I was like, no, not really. You know, and that's like, to me, that's a little bit of a negative because it's like, yes, I could have just gone and explored a few houses or something, but it's like, it almost feels like a responsibility to like, be able to dump a 2 or 3 hour session into this. Yeah. And if I can't do that, like I'm almost like I don't want to play because I know I can't commit to like that in depth of a play session. And again, that might be a me thing, but there is definitely kind of this like massive scale to this game where even running between point A to point B could take a few minutes, you know? And I'm not saying that that's bad because again, it kind of helps enhance the world and the atmosphere of the game and stuff like that. But at the same time, I get that could be aggravating or boring to some people. Favorite thing, I'm with you. Just the random things that happen in this game. The finding pipes that I could run along and figuring out how to go up on this building. Finding an invisible poltergeist that absolutely was intended to be there and wasn't a bug in the game. Yeah. Coming across 2 different factions, having an all-out war. I mean, how many times did you come across guys that were just having a gunfight where it was like 6 dudes on either side just lighting each other up, man?
You're like,
yeah, I would just sit there and watch it though, you know, or maybe try to sneak in and loot one of the corpses after like they were dead. And like just the world is alive. It's a janky alive. Yeah, it's alive.
Did you do the one with Lex the Legend?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. So I don't remember Lex.
This is what it is. So like I went and I'm pretty sure it was Lex. But you go and some guy's like, hey, come here, and you just do one of those little side missions. He's got his master or his teacher told him that there's this thing up there. We can go and we can get an artifact. And so then he's like, but you can't have any food. He's like, I learned how to do scent control, but if you have food on you, you know, that's no bueno, you know, you got to get rid of it. So I go and there's a van and I'm like, all right. And I just drop all my food. I have all this food there and I just drop it all. I go, we kill a few things and then the thing ends up not being up there. And I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So I go back down, I collect my food and then I walk over, you know, lo and behold, this is the little hideout with Mr. Lex. And he's swindling everybody, like acting like he's some big time stalker guy, and he's teaching them all and he's charging them money. I ended up killing them all, and then I got the PDAs and I got all their loot. So it was way better than killing that one creature. But these are the weird, crazy experiences you run into. Just that, like, you didn't even, and I'm sure there's a bunch that you did that I didn't do, and you didn't even run into this one. So that's what's crazy about the environment.
Yeah, I love that this is a game that is told through the various events and stories and quests and stuff like that that happen.
And that's what, to my kind of gruff with the story itself, that to me was like engaging, and I was kind of connected to it versus just kind of the normal story. You know, this little section is what drew me in, and not the rest of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I like the fact that you can be mean to people in this game. You can kind of play it how you want. Some guy lost his gun.
You're in the zone, brother.
And he was like, hey, I can't go down there because of the radiation, but like this gun was, you know, and then I went down there and I grabbed the gun and he was like, oh, thank you so much, man. And then I was like, yeah, I'm keeping this. And then he got so mad at me and I was just like, it's a good gun, man. Like, you know, so yeah, you can play it the way that you want to play it as well. Ryan, overall thoughts on this game? I mean, would you recommend Stalker? We're going to go to our leaderboard right after this, but I mean, how did you feel about this game overall?
I think overall it was a solid throwback to like an old school shooter game, kind of horror shooter type. I think that it didn't have all the crazy indicators that you normally have in the games today that, like we talked about, hand holding and guiding your path. So I think that if you enjoy a really kind of deep, dark world that you can explore and you have a lot of time to kill, and it's something that you want to just kind of immerse yourself in, and you have a few hours. I tell my wife when I'm going to go and I'm going to play and I can't be bothered, or I want to like really dive in, you know, I say I'm going dark. Hey, honey, I'm going dark. You know, I tell her I'm going dark. She's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going dark. I'll see you in an hour. You know, and I'll go and I'll hop into a game and I'll really dive in. So if you are into that, I think this is a good game for somebody who wants to do those things. If you're going to pop in here and there, like you said, the 20 minutes, you're not going to really accomplish much. So overall, I think it was pretty dang solid.
I really enjoyed this game. It really was a throwback for me. It really tickled that old school gamer. It really did. And I loved that feeling, man. I like, this is why in the very beginning of the show, I almost said this feels like it's like a mix of Skyrim, but with like a Fallout vibe to it, because like you can just lose yourself in this world. And it's the little things that you find while you're exploring that really make the game. And that's very reminiscent of Skyrim to me. You know, the crazy ruins, or the guy in the bar that winds up being a devil, or, you know, leads you on some crazy drunken quest for the whole night and you don't know what's going to happen. Like, that's this game. Like, you talked about the guy that was just swindling people. I mean, there's lots of those things in this game. It was a little daunting to me just to kind of step back and look at the scale of this game and go, I'm not going to be able to devote the time that this game probably deserves, you know, honestly. So I'm with you. I think if you were the kind of person where you want to absolutely lose yourself in this very well-crafted world, this atmospheric kind of post-apocalyptic thing, you don't have a game on the horizon that you're looking forward to. You know what I mean? Stalker 2 was way more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be, but in a different way. Like, I thought this was going to be like this finely crafted experience, and it was almost the opposite. Yeah. Where it was just like, we're not going to hold your hand. We're just going to give you things that happen. Go out into the world and see what happens. And I love that. And it's just not what I expected, but I was very, very pleasantly surprised that that's what we got out of it.
For sure.
I know there's a story. I was talking to Jigglepuff, who's 40 hours in, and he was still doing story stuff and all this. And he was kind of much deeper into the faction stuff and who's trying to accomplish this and that. So I know that's there. It's just that we didn't get like that deep into it or that far into it, but it is there for people that might want a little bit more of that as well. So I was very pleasantly surprised by this, but it was also a different experience than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that's really fair. It definitely was. It took you down whatever path you chose to go, I guess, basically. Like, everybody's going to have a different experience. Everyone's going to have a different kind of playthrough. kind of like those choose your own adventure style games. Like you're gonna find what you find, and so yeah, it was definitely different.
All right, Ryan, let's go to our leaderboard and let's rate this game, man. Let's make it official and kind of give people an actual game rating on our thoughts on this. Where are you at with this one? I'm curious, man. I'll be honest. Before you give your score, I have been all over the leaderboard. There's parts of me where I'm like, well, I mean, it was kind of janky. It had some performance issues. It's a little hard to follow sometimes, but then there's other times where I was like, remember that thing that you found and that, like that thing? Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, man. Yeah. So exactly like you just said there, this one, I did have a real hard time because there is, as much as we played this game and we put in a lot of hours in this game, and there's a lot more, it's like putting 30, 40 hours into Skyrim and saying you played the whole game. No, you haven't even scratched the surface.
You're right. Yeah, exactly.
So it feels like this has so much more to offer than what I've played so far. But what I've experienced and what I did, I'm going to give it an 8.5.
8.5 for
8.5.
That's good.
I think that it was something, maybe nostalgia played a little bit of a factor for a few decimal points there, but I really enjoyed overall the experience, the exploration, the gunplay. There was some weird spots where, my NPC that I was shooting thought he was the main character, and all of a sudden he was dipping and diving and like weaving and bobbing and just instant sponge, and everyone else died, and then he just took like 400 bullets. So there was definitely some weird stuff, but overall, I think it was just a totally solid game. I would recommend it. I would recommend it, especially if you have time to just dive into something and want to explore. But yeah, man, it was a solid one, and I am super stoked that we got to play it.
It's crazy. I thought about giving this game an 8.5. I'm not gonna lie, but we can't keep doing this, right? So I'm like, do I go one higher? Do I go one lower than this? Because I don't. I'm with you, man. Like I'm looking at my leaderboard, right? And it's like Nier Automata. Nier Automata is an experience, and I know that there's people that love it, but I'd play Stalker 2 like more than I would play Nier Automata at this point. And Nier Automata is an 8.5 for me. I just got done talking about the Forgotten City on our last episode, where I'm like, this is a hidden gem, and it's not flawless, but it's so memorable. So you know what? Actually, I am rating this an 8.5 because it's the right rating for it. And as much as like, I don't always want you and I to be in sync, but sometimes it's like, that is what this game deserves. And it's crazy to me because there's so much jank. I crashed, you know what I mean? Like I got killed by invisible things that took me a while to figure out. I don't understand the story in this game. It's like, if I pick up another bandage, can of meat, or an energy drink when I'm looting something, I had like hundreds of those things. And I'm like, dude, could you not give me different gear?
I was just using like 3 or 4 bandages to heal because I was just trying to burn through them because I had like 27,
Yes, exactly. And I'm like, I was always overweight. The game even warns you like, hey, don't be a pack rat. But I'm a pack rat, man. I can't throw this stuff away. I might need these 50 bandages at some point. So it's like, none of it makes sense to me. But it all just kind of works, man.
Yeah.
And again, if you don't like certain things, if you don't like games that do not hold your hand and they don't explain anything to you, if you are going to rage because you got killed by an invisible anomaly in a world that's filled with crazy anomalies, like maybe this isn't the game for you. The gunplay's kind of It's difficult. Like it only takes about 3 bullets for you to die, and it takes about 40 bullets for somebody else to die.
And just to hop in, totally like you have to maintain your equipment too. I don't know. We didn't cover that. So there's if you have a rifle that's broken, you will jam. So after 3 or 4 shots, chink, and then you'll see.
At the worst times too.
Worst times, and credit to the devs, man, because they just have the shell casing sitting there in your chamber off to the side, and you gotta boom reload to pop through a new chamber, a new round, Like, they did such a good job with that. So this is not like an easy game either.
It's a frustrating game. Like, it can really be frustrating at times, but it's like, but it just works, man.
Yeah.
So I get it. There are a lot of people that this game absolutely would not resonate with at all, and I completely get that. But for me, and apparently you, and I know some other people that have been playing this, it really does resonate. It doesn't make any sense why it resonates, because there's people that could be like, yeah, well, what about this, and this? And we'd be like, dude, you're right. Like, yeah, those things are terrible, but I still like this game.
I love it.
Yeah, so I'm going 8.5 as well. For me, that puts it up there with The Forgotten City, Deep Rock Galactic, Terraria, Tears of the Kingdom, The Witness, which people know I love, Nier Automata, which is a beloved game for a lot of people that have experienced that. But Stalker 2 belongs there. It's a unique experience. It works for what it does. It doesn't work in some ways, but it doesn't matter, man. I still like it.
Yeah.
So... yeah.
100%.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it, Ryan. We have one episode left this year, and I'm already excited about it because it is our Game of the Year awards. We are going to give out a bunch of awards. We're going to all talk about our favorite games. We're going to nominate our own Game of the Years, our most disappointing Game of the Year. Like, we've got a bunch of categories that we're going to go through. Do not miss that episode. It's going to release Thursday. So it's going to be, a little bit different because normally our longer episodes come out on Mondays, but that is coming out on Thursday. So don't miss that one. Believe me, you're going to want to tune in for it. That's it. Ryan, Stalker 2 was a good experience, man. I'm glad we had this one. Yeah. So,
yeah.
All right, everybody. Great. Thank you for tuning into the show. If you enjoyed this, remember to follow this podcast. If you are not already, you can leave a comment about it. If you are on Spotify, we read all the comments people leave there. If you want, you can follow us on social media at Video Gamers Pod. And if you want to go the extra mile and support the show to keep this content flowing to everybody, you can head over to multiplayersquad.com. You can sign up there, support the show. We're going to give you early access, ad-free episodes, some Discord perks and stuff like that as well. So that's it. Heading back to the zone. Until next time, happy gaming.
As they say in Ukraine, до побачення.